All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our, can I just call this the best course ever? Oh, I just did. Look at that. Look at what just happened. Best course ever, fascinating facts, lesson number 4. Now, today's topic is food. And I know what you're thinking. Who likes food? Everybody likes food. We might like different food, but everyone likes food. Food is one of those things that is the great equalizer. I mean, you think about, I'm just thinking like Jewishly, any simcha is associated with food. Every holiday is associated with food. Think about the holidays for a second. I'm going to share a holiday. You tell me what food, Jewish food, comes to mind or traditional food. Rosh Hashanah. What else?
Brisket.
What else? I was thinking apples and honey. Good. Right? All the above is also correct. But apples and honey, that would be all right.
Sweet challah. Did somebody say sweet challah?
Trick question. You'll give her no food, but it's still food. Breakfast. That's true. Oh, what's everyone's favorite breakfast? Bagels, lox, sweet. Really? Okay. Okay. Nice. Breakfast, huh? Which kugel?
Sweet.
What kind? Oh, sweet Lakshan noodle with raisin. Oh, that's very good. I had, first of all, I am a potato kugel fanatic. So
yes.
I
love the potato kugel.
I make an angry kugel in a good way, not in like, I mean, like I make a good kugel, but I recently had a kugel. I don't know what it's called. It's basically like noodle, basic salt and pepper, but it's fried on both sides. Anybody ever have that? I don't know what it's called. I'm like, this is good. I don't know where this is from. Oh, I was from the person's house, but it was really good. No, schmaltz. No one. I think very few people are using schmaltz nowadays. But schmaltz back in the day, everyone used schmaltz. Listen, today's all about food. We're not off topic. It might seem like we're off topic. Why are we talking about kugel and schmaltz? Today's about food. So we're right where we want to be. Let's keep on going. When you think of Sukkot, is there a special Sukkot food? Maybe, yeah.
Hot soups.
Hot soups.
Pizza in the hut.
Honey, yeah, there's some stuff. Hold on, Jay, what did you say?
For Sukkot, it's definitely stuffed cabbage. That's the traditional Simchas Torah meal.
You can't go wrong with stuffed cabbage. Stuffed cabbage is always good. Good. What else? Other
pizza
holidays.
In the hut.
These are going to be easy. Let's do Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Sufganiyot.
Jelly donuts, easy peasy. Purim. Hamantashen. That's easy. This is easy. Passover. I love that, right? Matzah, great. Every Shavuot. Cheesecake. Okay, good. We got this covered. We're professionals. We don't even need this class. Let's go home. I'm kidding.
Let's go eat.
Let's go eat is the correct thing. Nabach, all I have tonight are black and white cookies. Seriously, that's what it's the exile. Listen, that's where we're at. Listen, my friends, I got to tell you a story. And this is truth. This is facts right here. What year is the Jewish year right now? What year are we? 57, 85. 57, 85. Now, listen carefully. In the Chinese calendar, what is the year? 40. I don't expect you to know, but I wrote it down for myself in my notes. 4723. Okay, that means for 1,062 years, Jews didn't have Chinese food. We call those the Dark Ages, my friend. You want to know what are the Dark Ages? 1,062 years without Chinese food. I should have asked the question. How did I miss it? I missed it like who knows? What a shanda that I missed it. December 25th. Chinese food. That would be the answer. Chinese food is the answer.
No sushi for how many years?
No sushi. I don't even know. We have to find out Japan's situation. Now, look. Here we go. So tonight we talk about food, and we're going to explore. Really, tonight's class takes part in 3 acts. Act number 1, why we eat. Act number 2, what we eat. Act number 3, how we eat. Why, what, and how. What could go wrong? All right. So let's get started. Open up your booklets. I think everyone should have a booklet. Open up, please, to figure 4.1. On the inside cover page, which is marked as page 112. And please take a look at this chart together with me And let's observe some interesting features. Number one, the chart is titled Average Amount of Time Spent on Common Pursuits Over a Lifetime. And there's a column for men and a column for women. Cooking. Men spend 1.5 years of their lives cooking, women 3 years. Eating, 4 and 4. Eating is equivalent. Exercising, men 2, women 1. Getting ready, men 6 months, women 2 years. Hold on, it gets better. It gets better. I don't know where this is from, it doesn't matter. Household chores, 1.5 years for men, 2.5 years for women. Restroom time, 3 years. 3 years for men, 6 months for women. That is accurate. That is absolutely accurate. Shopping. All right. Shopping is 1 year for men, 2 years for women. Sleeping, 25 years for men. It's a long time. My gosh, 27 years for women. Watching TV, men 10 years, women 13 years. This might have been pre-football. Work, 10.5 years for men, 8.5 years for women. And there you have it. Now, Yaakov asked a good question. Where is this from? Where's the source? Who's the authority? Who's with the stopwatch? I don't know the answer to any of these questions. All I do know is that it makes for a great conversation. And it also highlights something interesting. How many of these activities are related to food? Which ones? Let's go. Cooking, eating.
Household chores.
Hold on. Is exercising related to food? I could go either way. No. Well, you eat, then you have to exercise. No. All right. Fine.
Restroom time.
Getting ready at our household chores. Restroom time. I would say yes. Yeah. Shopping. Well, what are we shopping for? I mean, we also shop for other things, but I do believe that of shopping would it be fair to say that 50% of our shopping is for food? I think it's fair. Maybe more. Maybe we're at the mall. I mean, where else are we shopping? Clothing stores, Best Buy. I don't know. There's other places to shop at. But what? Oh, online. That takes no time. Boom. Easy peasy.
It would seem that if shopping is 2 years and cooking is 3 years, that this shopping must be something other than just groceries. That this ought to be like
yes.
Clothing.
Well, it's all the above. But I'm saying of that, there's probably some time. So I'll say this. Let's give a fair estimate. There's about 10 years of activities of our lives are spent on food-related items of all of the above categories, approximately 10 years or so. That's a lot of time. And so I will ask the following question to take a sip from this very large cup. My question to you all is, why do you think eating is such a prime feature of human activity in human life? Why is eating such a big deal? Yeah.
Survival.
Social.
Good. Survival, social, excellent. Good. Let me ask another question. And this might be a very hard question to answer. It may not seem like a fair question to even ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Because who says life is fair? Okay. Right. So here's my question. Why did God create us with a need to eat? Do you know there are things in existence that don't need to eat? Like things that survive on photosynthesis and whatnot. I hate to bring up like 5th grade science or 6th grade science and such, but here we are, right? Things survive, some things survive without eating other things. So why is it that human beings were created in such a way that we do need to eat, and we spend so much time wrapped up in the activity of food, shopping, cooking, eating, serving, whatever, all of the other stuff? Why is it that God created us with such a time drain of food? And so I want to share with you right off the bat, we're going to go Kabbalistic right away. I didn't say ballistic, I said Kabbalistic. Kabbalistic is as follows. Look, Kabbalah teaches that human beings have a unique role in life. The truth is the Torah, it's right there in the Bible. It says that God created Adam and Eve of all the creatures. God created human beings last. After everything else, God created the sun, moon, and stars, and God created the grass and vegetation, and God created the oceans and the fish and the skies and the birds and all of the stuff, all of the earths and crusts, plural, why plural? Earth and crust and earthquakes and tsunamis, everything. God created all of that, and then God created all the animals. God created the monkeys, and God created the elephants, and God created the lions and tigers and bears. And then, after all was done, God pushed the envelope one more time and said, hey, let's create Adam and Eve. And then God said to himself, should have stopped with the elephants. Should have stopped with the elephants before this got out of hand. But here we are. We are created the last. And that's the fact. We are created the last, and our sages tell us that there's two messages. Number one, if you're ever feeling a little too arrogant, remind yourself, even the mosquito was created before me. And if you're feeling a little down, remind yourself that the whole world was set up to get ready so that you could make the grand entrance with the whole world set. It's like the major character, right? Walks in when everything's, I don't know if that's true, but just go with me on this analogy. That may not be true, right? Walks in like a boss when everything is ready to roll, and that's the human being. So if you need to get cut down a little bit, we got that. If you need to be uplifted, we got that also. But one of the other things that we know in the narrative of Genesis that God tells Adam and Eve is that I'm placing you in the garden. Didn't last long. Placing you in the garden, la'avda, la'shamra, to guard it. Sorry, to work it and to guard it. And that is our call to action, to take the world and elevate it, to take the world and make it a better place than we found it. Now, you can do that many different ways, but perhaps the closest encounter we'll have with anything of creation is food. Think about it. Think about it. You can take a hammer and knock a nail in and build something, create something with your hands or paint, whatever. You can create something. But all of that creation is happening, all the change is happening outside yourself. What happens when we eat? Where does the food go? I know it's an obvious answer. Where does it go? Inside of us. It becomes part of our flesh and blood. Dam u basar kibsaro. It becomes literally part of our blood and our flesh, and the energy of the food gives us energy. If you're feeling weak, if you're feeling tired, right? Just think about a fast day. You're feeling weak, you're feeling tired. We spoke about the bagels or whatever you break your fast on. Oh, you feel better, and now you can go on with your life. What's the point? Food gives us the energy that we need. So here's what it is. When we eat food, we're taking energy, the energy of something outside of ourselves. Whether you eat meat, so it might be an animal, or whether it's vegetation, a salad, a piece of sushi, whatever it is, right? You take a cookie, right? Have a cookie. You take something, you put it inside your mouth, and you eat it. That is the closest you can get to something. How more, I'm going to use the word intimate, I don't mean it in that way, but how more intimate could you get with something than literally absorbing it into your own bloodstream? And then what happens? And then it becomes part of your energy, and then you use the energy to do something good. You do a mitzvah, you study some Torah, you come to a Torah class with a black and white cookie. Bada bing, bada boom. Now you've elevated, you've taken the energy from the cookie, you've absorbed it into yourself, and now you're doing something holy, positive, spiritual, meaningful, whatever with that energy. Turns out you're taking stuff of the earth, imbibing it, right, absorbing it and elevating it, and you are now part of this mechanism to literally uplift, hey Ramon, to uplift the energy of creation around ourselves. Isn't that amazing?
Can I add something, Ari?
Hold on one second, hold on. So now, what that means is, I asked the question before, let's round out the question with the answer. I asked the question, one second. Why is it that we spend so much time eating? Why is it that God created us with a need to eat? You know what the answer is? Because what activity is more important than eating? On a spiritual, forget on a physical level, on a spiritual level, it's very hard to find an activity that is so not only emblematic of our mission, but so true to our mission, which is to be caretakers of the world and elevate the things around us for a higher purpose. It's very hard, we'd be very hard to find another activity that does that better than eating. Sure, you can take, something and use it as a mitzvah, whatever, but you're not absorbing it. You're doing something with it, as opposed to literally transforming it. It becomes you, and you are now invested in something higher. You've now transformed that thing to something higher. Make sense? Yes? Huh?
What about studying Torah?
Yeah, yes. Studying Torah is a mitzvah. But remember, when we study Torah, what's the transformation? We're doing something holy. But where's the transformation? Transformation happens with the food that we ate to have the energy to then study Torah. So we're now, because we are in a unique position between kind of earth and heaven, we have the ability to also lift up the things around us. How? Number one, by using them in the performance of a mitzvah. But with food, it's even deeper. We've absorbed it, it's part of us, and now it's literally everything that we ate and drank. So you're tired in the morning, and you want to concentrate and study a little Torah. You drink a coffee. Guess what? That coffee now is also, and I don't mean this literally, but the coffee is also studying Torah. Can you imagine? Yaakov.
So before Adam and Eve decided to unleash just all the mess by eating whatever they ate, they were.
By the way, just pause for 1 second. Think about it. The downfall came through misguided eating. That shows the centrality of how important eating is. You get it right, paradise. You get it wrong, you get the eviction notice. Yeah.
So they were vegetarian, I assume, correct? Before that.
Before Noah, I know a guy. You're also, aren't you Yaakov Noah? Yeah, you're Noah. Yeah. So before Noah, no one was allowed to eat meat.
Eat meat, right?
Correct.
So did something happen at that point? Did the animals go down in their vibrational frequency or their awareness of God as well, so that we had to lift them up by killing them and munching on them?
That I don't know. But it seems like before that, maybe they didn't need that type of elevation. Afterwards, they did. To your point, maybe they were in alignment. It seems like they were out of alignment because they also got destroyed in the flood. Yeah, snake is part of it. It's a good question. I got to think about that. Hold the question. Now, what I want to do is focus now. So that's why.
Ari, can I just add what I want to that?
Yes.
Yeah, in Yiddish, I remember my grandmother used to tell. This is something that she told everybody, like her grandchildren. She said, "I'll say it in Yiddish and then I'll translate it. Koyach sicht men in the schissel." To get strength, you find it in the bowl, basically. You get strength by eating. And that was an axiom that she lived by.
Cereal bowl, the soup bowl, the Super Bowl. Oh, there we go. All right. This is scary if we're not thinking on the same lines. Watch out. All right. Now, let's jump into second part, which is what we eat. So now we're going to take a deep dive into kosher and all that's related. But actually, hold on. Before we do that, let's read an interesting fact. Page 113 there at the bottom, where it says, you see that little box that says kosher in outer space? Colonel Ilan Ramon. Remember Ilan Ramon? He was the Israeli astronaut that died in 2003. I forget which mission it was, but I think on its return back into to the atmosphere, I think it blew up. This is not the Challenger, but this is another tragedy. So Colonel Ilan Ramon was the first person to eat kosher meals in space. Although he was not particularly religious, Ramon felt that as Israel's first astronaut, I'm kind of a representative of all the Jewish community. He also, by the way, took a Torah scroll that was from the Holocaust. Remember that? He took a small Torah scroll to survive the Holocaust. Super tragic all around for everybody, and of course for him as well. And the symbolism of what he did and what he took. Yeah, what a tragedy. Let's now jump into kosher. So I want to mention a few things before we get into, we're going to start with text 3a on page 114. But before we get there, I want to give a bit of take a running start. So when it comes to kosher, it's fairly simple when it comes to things that grow from the ground. the rule of thumb is if it grows from the ground, it's kosher. Now, there are some very few exceptions. I'll state the exceptions. Number one, if it grows from the ground, it's kosher, but not if there are bugs. Okay, so if you have, lettuce or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, it's kosher. What could go wrong? Yeah, but did you check it to see if there are any bugs crawling around? Because if there are, guess what? Bugs aren't kosher. So number one, if it grows from the ground kosher, you got to check for bugs. People typically will rinse it, maybe soak it, hold it up to the light, look at it, a UV thing. No, I'm kidding, but we'll typically inspect it to make sure that there's no bugs. Another point.
Romaine lettuce.
Yeah, romaine lettuce. Some people don't even eat broccoli because it's too hard to check. All right, everyone's got different customs. Huh? Asparagus. Good. Now, that's one point. Second point is when trees grow the first 3 years or 4 years, you're not supposed to eat of its fruit. So if it's a brand new tree also, even though it's kosher technically, but we don't eat it until after several years. Next point is, there's certain things. So Torah says you're not supposed to mix seeds together. Like, what's a tangelo? Tangelo is a tangerine?
No.
And tangelo.
No, it would have to be the same species, like a plum or something.
Cantaloupe, gotta get married. What? What is tangelo?
Well, it has to be.
Whatever, tangelo. It's something. The point is, Jewish law says not to mix seeds together. But if it's already done, you're allowed to eat it. No, so not always is it like that, and it's not like you can't mix meat and milk. But if someone else did it, no, that's not. It's still that would still be a problem. But when it comes to these things, yes.
So has there been any kind of halachic ruling on GMO, where they're taking genetic information from one species and inserting it into the DNA of another species?
That might also run afoul. But again, if you're not doing it as the consumer, you can eat.
No, I mean, unless it says.
Yeah, but it's still kosher to eat. Saying either way, even if it's done in violation, it's still kosher to eat as long as you're not doing it. The bigger question that you're kind of bring up is it, can you be in that field of science if it's a problem? That would be potentially problematic. I don't know enough about the science of it to know, where that comes into. But and one more thing, even if you're like, well, it grows from the ground, what could go wrong? If it's processed in a food manufacturing plant, then all bets are off, because now you don't know what else went into it, what was running on the machines right before that. Now there becomes a whole gray issue about like, okay, now I know what you're thinking. My lettuce didn't go through a manufacturing plant. Well, then you're fine. I'm just saying, if you find something, or you're thinking like flour, what could go wrong, right? It's flour. It's just a rose. I'm kidding. The other flour, right? It's flour. Okay, but how did you get the flour? It's not like you picked something and ground and did the grinding. You bought it. It went through a plant. What's going on in the plant? So that's why we need kosher certification. But I don't want to jump too far. But now let's talk about animals. Not everyone eats animals, but if you do, what constitutes a kosher animal? Let's look at that inside. Toba, please get us started. Text 3a, page 114, Leviticus 11:3.
Any animal that has a cloven hoof and which brings up its cud, you may eat.
Thank you. These are the two signs of a kosher animal. Split hooves and chews its cud. Figure 4.2. This is an actual, real, anatomically correct picture. I'm kidding. This is sketch 4.2. You have the split hoof and the cloven hoof and the uncloven hoof. For reference, it's got to have a split hoof and it's got to chew its cud to be kosher. Please do one more, Toba. Text 3b.
These are the animal species that you may eat: ox, goat, and sheep, gazelle, deer, antelope, ibex, chamois, bison, and giraffe. All
right. So then the Torah elsewhere in Deuteronomy talks about the specific types of animals, categories of animals that can be eaten. And interestingly enough, and by the way, all of these listed chew their cud and have split hooves. Great. The last one there, giraffe. When was the last time you had a cholent with giraffe in there? right? Gross. But it's conceptually, it could be kosher. So what's wrong? Well, we know that in addition to being a kosher animal, it also has to be slaughtered correctly. When I was a kid, I heard that the reason why we don't have giraffe is because the neck is so long, you don't know where to shecht it. Like, it's like, where do you slaughter it? So there's so much. That was fake news from the beginning. That is not the issue with giraffe. The issue with giraffe is it's going to kick the shochet in the head. God forbid. That's the problem. The problem is not, I don't know where. You got 6 feet of neck to work at. This is like a shochet's dream neck. I know it's getting a little weird now, but the point is that that's not the issue. You know what? Let's read the little box there. We can read it inside. How about some giraffe stew? If giraffes are kosher, why are they absent from the kosher supermarket refrigerator? This is the box on page 115. It's commonly believed, remember this course also, we're all about myth busting and that sort of thing. So this is one of the myths that we're busting. It's commonly believed that giraffes cannot be ritually slaughtered because their necks are so long that it's impossible to know where the knife of the shochet, ritual slaughter, should land. In fact, the opposite is true. The proper location for ritual slaughter on the giraffe's neck is precisely defined by Jewish law and is close to 6 feet in length. So it should be easier to slaughter a giraffe than any other animal. Then why don't we eat them? Primarily because it is impractical to commercially raise giraffe for food. They are prohibitively expensive and not particularly tasty. In addition, they are strong and difficult to restrain. Even fierce predators are wary of giraffes. One kick from a giraffe can crush a lion's skull, and that would not be fun. So that's a little bit about giraffe. But the point is, though, that the signs of a kosher animal, land animal, are chewing its cud and having split hooves. What is common? What is common to those two signs? What do you think?
What is chewing?
Chewing its cud means that the animal, let's say a cow, has multiple stomachs, and it digests in one stomach, and then it brings up the food, and then it goes into the next stomach, and it goes from stomach to stomach on Stomach Tour 2025.
So it just has multiple.
It has multiple digestive.
Just grass, so you have to do different stages.
Right. Now, what's common to split hooves and chewing cud? What thematically, what does anything resonate as far as like what's common to those two? Good. What else? What else is common?
It's observed.
It's the idea that things are happening in 2 or multiple stages, right? A split hoof means not just one hoof. It's you got 2, and likewise, chewing cud means it didn't just digest it at once. There's a multi-stage process. And the message, because, you are what you eat. So the message is that human beings, likewise, for us to be kosher, we're not eating, this is not like, but for us to be kosher human beings in our personality, the way we deal with the world, it's important to be able to see different angles, not only be locked into one way of thinking. Right? Having a split hoof means we can see this perspective, and we can also appreciate the other perspective. Even if we don't necessarily adopt the other perspective, it's important to be able to see both. It's important to also, what's the word I'm looking for? To not regurgitate, that's weird. No, to be able to think of something, ruminate. Yeah. Like before we respond impulsively, to be able to think about, to chew on it. There you go. Literally to chew on something once, twice, maybe 3 times before acting, so that it's not just impulse, but it's intentionality over impulsivity. Now,
I just want to say.
Hold on one second. Let's. I just want to. Let's. All right. Now, here's what we want to do. We want to get into the exceptions to this. Okay, so kosher implies that it has 2 signs, split hooves and chews its cud. Now, what if it only has one but not the other? That's the question. What do you think? 50% kosher? No. Every other bite is kosher? No. If it doesn't, it's all or nothing. Either it has both signs or it ain't kosher. The Torah lists 4 animals, only 4 animals that have one but not the other. There are 3 animals that chew their cud but do not have split hooves, And there's one animal that has split hooves, but does not chew its cud. What are they? So here we go. The three animals that chew their cud, but don't have split hooves are the camel, the hare, and the hyrax. The hyrax, I don't know what that is.
Rock rabbit. They live in-
It's a rock rabbit?
Yeah, it's a rock rabbit. They live in.
Rock and roll. All right.
Like large pigs.
And then the fourth animal is the one that has split hooves but does not chew its cud, and that one is the pig. Take a look, Eve. Please read text number 4. Here's where the Torah declares which of these animals is the only one animal that has split hooves but doesn't chew its cud.
And the pig, which has a split hoof but does not chew its cud, is unclean to you. You shall not eat their flesh.
All right, there we go. So the Torah declares that this one animal, the chazir, the pig, or as we say it in Yiddish, chazer, right, has split hooves but does not chew its cud. Now, it's not kosher like all the other animals that are not kosher, so it too is not kosher because it only has one sign. I want to ask the following question. Why is it that pigs get such a bad rap, right? If somebody wants to refer to treif, they'll say chazer treif, right? Like big treif. When the bad guys were, busting into the temple and wanted to make a big stink about like defiling it, what did they offer on the altar? A pig. Understand this. There is no, in kosher, the lion is also not kosher. So why is it that pig becomes so the symbol of non-kosher more than any other non-kosher? A horse is not kosher. A turtle is not kosher. Oh, turtle treif. It even has alliteration over there, turtle treif. But no one says that. I mean, I know I just did, but like no one actually says that. So the question is, why is it that the pig has become such a symbol of not kosher? And we have a beautiful Rashi, text number 5. Beautiful Rashi. You know what, Eve, if you don't mind doing one more, text 5. This is Rashi explaining what the deal with the pig is.
When the pig lies down, it extends its hooves as if to say, see, I am kosher.
Look at that. Look at that. It's not just that the pig is not kosher. Many things are not kosher, but are you trying to pretend to be kosher? Right? The pig says, look at me. I got split hooves, baby. You're like, but what about your cud? Oh, let's not talk about that. In other words, when you know something is not kosher, great. But when the thing that's not kosher is trying to pretend that it's kosher, now, come on. What are you doing? Now, don't be a chazer. Now you tell it, right? What are you doing? Don't be that guy, right? Don't pretend that. Think about it in the context of like, foes and enemies. If you know someone is an enemy, all right, you'll deal with them. The worst is the enemy that pretends to be a friend. That's more dangerous. Someone that says, I'm your enemy. Okay, now you take them on. But someone says, no, I'm your friend. And then as they're hugging you, boom, in the back. That was the backstab, right? Right? I'm just making sure you knew what that was, right? That's the worst. That's more insidious. So we say, now, I just want to be very clear here. It's not necessarily that the pig is consciously saying, oh, look at me. We're not actually saying that the pig has the intention and that intentionality, but it's just what it symbolizes. The pig is a symbol of that which pretends to be a friend, pretends to be kosher, but really is not kosher. And that's even worse than just coming out straight and saying, I'm not kosher. David, jump in.
It's a little, feel free to say this is off topic, but just yesterday I was in a group and the subject of whether turkeys are kosher came up.
Yeah. Good. Let's talk about turkey. Turkey is a kosher bird. Some have the tradition. Most have the tradition that kosher. Well, actually, you know what? Let's hold off the bird. I'm going to get to birds in a second. We'll talk about birds when we get into the tradition about birds, the Masorah. All right, we're going to get there in a second. We'll address turkey. Now, let's take a look at the. Actually, let's do that right now. Let's talk about birds for a second. Birds of so typically when it comes to birds of prey are not kosher. Why? They're too religious. No, not that type of prey. Oh, I cannot believe I just said that. No, birds of prey, P-R-E-Y, not A-Y, right? P-R-E-Y, birds that are like vicious and angry and whatever. So thus, and the Torah mentions a bunch of categories like vultures and crows and all that stuff that are not kosher. And this common denominator are those that are birds of prey, even though it doesn't say specifically about birds of prey, but that's a thing that we might notice, which means that we're trying to make sure that we're not, because I mentioned before at the top that when we eat, we're actually absorbing the energy of what we eat, right? You are what you eat. So we don't want to inculcate, we don't want to take in or absorb, imbibe that type of energy, like aggressive energy. And that's the same reason why, again, the pig is like such a no-no, because again, it's symbolic of this idea of pretending to be something that you're not. By the way, speaking of which, there's a story about a guy who buys a parrot. You know this one? The guy buys a parrot. He's walking by a pet store and he hears a rah, rah, whatever he hears, like the parrot voice. He's like, oh, cool, parrots. Yeah, and he goes in and the parrot is speaking and it's conversing with him. It's unbelievable. You know, he wants some company, so he buys the parrot, takes it home, and immediately the parrot turns on him, begins berating him, begins making fun of him, criticizing him, right? Nagging him the whole day and night, cursing at him. Unbelievable. He had no idea what he was walking into. Unbelievable. He gets so fed up at some point with this parrot. He says, you got to cool off. And he puts the parrot into the freezer. I am not, just 1 second. Don't turn PETA on me for a second. I'm just sharing a joke. All right. So maybe there's nothing funny about putting parrots in freezers. Nonetheless, this is the story. So the guy, after like 20 seconds, he realizes like maybe this is not a great idea, right? So his better sense gets to him. He quickly opens the freezer, and the parrot's fine, but it looks very contrite. And the parrot says to him, I want to apologize for anything that I've ever said that was untoward to you. For anything that was hurtful or disrespectful, I will never, ever, ever do it again. And the guy's surprised because like it was in the freezer, it wasn't that long. The parrot says, but tell me one thing. Answer one question, please. What did the chicken do? What did the chicken do? All right, back into the class. Now, is kosher healthy? Is kosher healthy? Yeah, all that Lakshan Kugel. No. Is kosher healthy? Is it synonymous with healthy food? This is surprising. Take a look at text number 8. David, please read text number 8. We're going to get back to the text that we skipped. Don't worry. But I just want to fast forward for a minute to text 8. This is coming from a study that was done back in 2009, but it still holds true today.
Christians, Muslims, Jews, and atheists alike are helping fuel the robust market for kosher foods, according to a new report by market research firm Mintel. In a consumer survey of adults who purchase kosher food, Mintel found that the number one reason people buy kosher food is for food quality. The second most common reason people say they purchase kosher food is general healthfulness, 51%, and the third is food safety, 34%. This contrasts sharply with just 14% of respondents who say they purchase kosher food because they follow kosher religious rules. Another 10% buy kosher because they follow some other religious rules with eating restrictions similar to kosher.
Thank you. Isn't that interesting? Just 14% of the people that buy kosher said that they did that because they follow a kosher law. Isn't that interesting? The majority, and I would say vast majority of people, are buying it because it's healthier, it's cleaner, whatever it is, better quality, basically for health. Sorry? Maybe more humane or whatever. So it's interesting. It's an interesting fact. But is that correct? Is that actually accurate that kosher food is healthier, that kosher meat somehow is not susceptible to mad cow disease, or that kosher is less prone to E. coli or salmonella, or that fish with fins and scales don't absorb poisons and toxins, or that meat and dairy in general don't digest well together, so you're better off not mixing them? Is all of this true? Is it not true? Is this the reason for kosher? That might be true, but is it the actual reason? So we're going to go back now to text number 6. All right, we're going to turn back the clock to text number 6, where we read Rambam, Maimonides, in his Mishnah Torah, in his book of Jewish law, and he explains, right, so let me just give a quick background to text 6, or context. In text 6, Maimonides divides the mitzvot, right, Jewish law, into 2 categories, mishpatim and chukim. And as we'll see, he explains what each category of laws represent and what they contain. All right, Phil, please read text number 6.
Mishpatim are mitzvot whose justifications are revealed and the practical benefits of their observance are known. For example, the prohibition against robbery and bloodshed and the commandment to honor one's mother and father. Chukim are mitzvot whose reasons are not known. As our sages said, God says, I order you to observe my chukim, and you have no license to question it. The person naturally chafes against their observance, and the nations of the world challenge them. Examples of chukim include the prohibitions regarding the flesh of the pig and regarding milk and meat.
Thank you. Now let's break this down. Let's just go through this. Let's go over this again slowly. So number 1, the first category that he mentions are what we call mishpatim. What are mishpatim? Those are mitzvot that make a lot of sense to the human mind. Like don't kill, makes sense. Don't steal, that makes sense. In fact, our sages in the Talmud say that, or maybe it's a medrash, that had Torah not been given at Sinai, 10 Commandments, whatever, human beings could have come up with some of those as well. The mishpatim, humans can come up with as well. Yeah, it's probably not good to have a society that is so lawless that people just kill each other.
Well, they know
Right. I'm saying, but even if they weren't divinely given, even if God didn't communicate them, forget about Jewish versus universal. That's a correct point as well. But again, this is a slightly different point. That even if God didn't give us the mitzvah, we could have at some point, maybe not originally, we could at some point come up with it ourselves. I don't want someone to take my stuff. So then why should I be able to take someone else's stuff without their permission? So, all right, we can respect that. But chukim, which is category number 2 of the mitzvot that I'm in reading text 6, chukim are mitzvot that make no sense. Even after you got it and you read it and you study it, if someone asks you, but why? The answer will be, no idea. The only answer is because God said so. That's what chukim are. That's the plural. Chok and mishpat are the would be the singular. So mishpatim are the mitzvot that logically make sense. Chukim are the decrees, i.e. the super rational laws of Torah. And what are the examples? What are the examples that Maimonides gives for chukim? Prohibition against eating chazir, eating basar chazir, eating the flesh, the meat of a pig, and mixing meat and milk, or milk and meat. He says these are examples of chukim. In other words, you're going to try to figure it out. At the end of the day, you might say, no, I understand why, because milk and meat and this and that, and Kabbalistically, chesed and gvura, sure. But that's all, we can layer on top of it. At the core of it, God said don't do it, so we don't do it. There's a bunch of things that Torah says not to mix. I mentioned before mixing like plants and, seeds.
Grafting.
There's also wool and linen, not to wear wool and linen. Why? Not because it's some sort of fashion faux pas. Who was it? Joan Rivers? Was she who was the one that was on the runway always? She was Joan Rivers. And imagine saying, oh, what do you wear? Who are you wearing? Wool and linen. Oh, it's an atrocity. She would not say that. It's not like wool and linen is inherently evil. Torah says don't mix it, so we don't mix it. What are you going to do? Wool and linen. That's it. Does it make sense? No. I don't know. You know what? Today, I can only speak of like men's jackets. A lot of them have wool and linen in it. They even advertise it. It says wool and linen. It's great. It's got the wooliness of wool and the linenosity of linen. It's great. What a combo. I don't know. What do I look like I sew? Right. But here we go. Wool and linen. You know that it's not a class about shatnez, which is the wool and linen prohibition. Nonetheless, I don't mind taking a minute. There are shatnez laboratories that will analyze your clothing for a small fee. and then let you know if there's any secret woolen linen that was unreported by the fiber account inside the garment label.
Isn't a lot of that just the lining?
Yeah, sometimes the lining and the collar is made of.
Yeah, typically the stiffening.
Yes, right, because the linen is a stiff fabric, and so you want to give it a little bit of. So that could be a problem. By the way, just to bring out how much of a chok, supernatural decree, the garments of the Kohen in the temple back in the day, they were made of wool and linen. Like, what? Wool and linen? Says that, yeah, the same God that said no wool and linen for y'all says yes wool and linen for the Kohen, or the Kohen Gadol, who I like to call the big kahuna. Anyway, right? So that's like the high priest. So these are rules that don't necessarily make sense. Now, have rabbis, philosophers, even scientists and thinkers come up with theories as to the benefits of kosher? Sure. But can we say that that's the reason? We don't know a reason, and we can come up with reasons, but that doesn't define it and or limit it. I hope that makes sense. Now, take a look. Yeah.
Just an overarching fact that we don't eat predators, we don't eat scavengers, we eat the peaceful prey species.
Yes, and I know I mentioned that earlier about the predatory birds. That's Ramban, that's Nachmanides who explains that. But I'll be honest, the Torah doesn't use that language. The Torah doesn't say that these are not kosher because they're birds of prey. It just lists certain species. And then you're like, common denominator is that these are all violent birds that prey on others. That's not a good quality. Oh, I bet it's because of that. But it's dangerous sometimes to lock into a rationale that is a presumed or a superimposed rationale, because the truth is that can get us into trouble. If a person says, well, I know the reason for kosher is that it's healthy. So today in 2025, I'm going to buy, vegan, organic, super healthy. And then I don't need to look for the OU because I look for the OV. Is that a thing? Mm-hmm. Vegan has the V, right? Yeah, I've seen that, the circle V. So then I don't need to know you, Orthodox Union. I'm just looking for the vegan stuff because I'm eating healthy. Isn't that what kosher is all about? That's where it gets a little bit dangerous. God gave us what I like to call, right? First, there was the Atkins diet. Then there was the South Beach diet. But before all of that, there was the Sinai. The Sinai diet. I was right there by the punchline. The Sinai diet, right? The Sinai diet is God's vision for what we should eat. By the way, I forgot to debunk something else. What does kosher mean? It's a good question. What does kosher mean? Oh,
it means proper.
Before you get to the actual answer, let's get to some potential false answers. Kosher, you may think kosher means maybe blessed. Maybe kosher is blessed by the rabbi, or maybe it means supervised. None of the above. Kosher means fit, appropriate. What does that mean? Imagine you buy a really expensive car. I mean like a sports car, something, whatever that is, right? A really nice car, a Lamborghini. And you need to now go to the gas station to fill it up with some gas. Okay, you're gonna go with the 87? I go with the 87 in my, I call it my Dentley. I didn't say Bentley, Dentley. I'm kidding, right? The minivan, right? The 80s, thank you. Someone got, so fill it up. It's gonna be fine with the cheap gas. I'm pretty sure it's fine. It's going strong. Whatever. It doesn't have a sophisticated palate, right? The Chrysler, whatever this is, it's fine. It's fine with whatever. It'll take whatever you got. But like a really sophisticated car has a sophisticated palate. It's got to have the appropriate gasoline. It's got to have the good stuff. Kosher means fitting. It's appropriate. Right? We're living this dream. I mean, we're like human beings and part of this mission, and then the Jewish mission on top of that, and all this stuff. And we got to be fueled by the right stuff. That's what kosher is. Kosher is like a diet divinely ordained. This is the stuff that's good. Now, can we then figure out, it's because bottom feeders are no good and scavengers aren't good, and might be true, but also might not be true. Who knows? The same manufacturer that made the vehicle also says, this is what you should put inside. We would be the vehicle in this context, right? The manufacturer says, I created you fine-tuned food for your spiritual and physical. Can we call it physiology if it's spiritual? Spirituosity? All right, good. So now let's get to the Kli Yakar. Take a look at Kli Yakar, text number 7. He's a biblical commentary, lived, you see there in the mid-1500s. At least, please read this one. He debunks, or I don't know, he tries to debunk this notion that kosher necessarily means healthy.
Many of the commentators explain that there are physical health benefits to be gained from abstaining from non-kosher foods. This is not so, for the nations eat the flesh of mice and those creatures that the Torah describes as abominable and unclean. After all, they are healthy and strong, none are adversely affected by the foods. It is therefore certain that all these laws are intended only to maintain the health of the soul.
Kli Yakar says, thank you very much. Kli Yakar says, healthy, unhealthy, fake news. They're eating mice and they're fine.
Although during the Middle Ages, one of the libels against Jews who didn't die of the Black Plague in such high numbers was that somehow they were poisoned in the wells, but in fact they were preparing their food much cleaner.
Yeah, and the Torah says also you don't put a bathroom in your living area. You gotta. There's a lot of things that are in Jewish law. Now, here's the thing. I think this is maybe a more accurate way to say it. We don't know why God gives us what. Okay, mishpatim, the mitzvahs that make sense. But the chukim, the super rational stuff, we don't necessarily know why God gave it to us. But to say that there are going to be tangible benefits for a mitzvah, I think we can say that. So is it about the benefit? I don't know. But does it have is there a benefit on the other end? Okay, let me take that from a different angle. And I think it's going to be clear what I mean with that. Do you remember that study that was done, as if I remember, it was done in the 60s, a little before my time. So the marshmallow experiment, you know what I'm talking about? The one at Stanford, where they had a bunch of kids come in and they gave them, so they sat down kids at a table, one at a time. And they said to the kid, here's the deal. Here's the score. You can have one marshmallow now. Here's a marshmallow. You can have it now. But if you don't eat it for, I don't know if it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever the amount was, let's say 10 minutes. If you don't eat it for 10 minutes, when I come back, I'll give you a second one and you can eat both of them. Straight up. One now, or you wait and you get two. And then they had cameras, hidden cameras. And you see some kids are like, 10 minutes. I don't know if I'll even be here in 10 minutes. Like 10 minutes. Who knows what's going to happen? The whole world. Tsunami. All right. So some kids are like, 10 minutes. Shkoyach. Get out of here. 10 minutes. I'm eating it now. Other kids are like, they're like poking it, prodding it. They're like smelling it. Yeah, you can see the footage. It's brilliant. You see the footage. It's a brilliant psychological experiment. And by the way, we could do an equivalent for adults. I don't know if marshmallows will get us going on that level. But some kids are getting, the kids are getting very much into it and whatever. And then other kids are just like stoic. They're like, bring it on. You say 10 minutes or 20? I don't even know. Like, I got you, marshmallow. I'm like, they got this. You're staring down the marshmallow. I'm not touching you. I got this. You know what's even more fascinating about all the above? They then followed the kids that had more self-control through the years. Those kids did better in life. Wait. Who am I to say they did better in life? They measured based on metrics, how far their education went, how well they did, in school, their job, their earnings, whatever. They followed these kids into adulthood, and on average or by and large, the kids with more self-control did better in life. So now let me ask you a simple question. If kosher is even reduced to the concept of not everything that you see, you go for, wouldn't that also have a benefit in and of itself? Isn't that also a dayenu? Even if it's just about the psychology of, I'm going to be able to look at something that looks good and I'll say, no, it's not for me. Isn't that itself a healthy concept? To be able to resist? That itself is healthy. Even exercising that discipline in and of itself. So is that why we have kosher? Is it about discipline? Is it about training ourselves to say no to things that look really good? I don't know. Is it about avoiding things that are predatory creatures? Is it about avoiding bottom feeders and with toxins and ich weiß nicht. I have no idea. It's a chok. Can all of the above be true? Sure. Might none of them be true? The kliyaker, I don't know if he's right or wrong. That's not what he says. He says our neighbors are eating mice, and meanwhile they know how to change a tire. Just saying. Jews? I don't know. We're like, I don't know, the tire. AAA. AAA. Full on AAA. I'm just saying. They're eating mice, right? And they know to build a pergola. I'm just saying they know what they're doing. It's like Jews walk in, sukkahs, to Home Depot. It's like, I got to build a structure. I don't even know what's the thing? What's the thing that goes into the other thing? You're asking the guy with the orange vest. He's like, you mean a nail? Yeah. Where do you keep those? Yeah, it's like, oh my God, this is not going to work. Anyway, you with me on this?
So is the corollary anything that is kosher is fit and is good to have?
Sort of. It's conceptually allowed. After that, we got to make good decisions. Listen.
You have a contractor
You
have a contractor that I gave the dimensions. Rena helped me, your sister. And we showed him pictures of a sukkah in Crown Heights, a beautiful one. And he took that, and he's not Jewish, of course, and he built that sukkah from scratch.
And he might have been nice. No, the point is that, look, that's a kliyakar. Now, let's do one more. Yeah.
So are we just saying the kliyakar is fact, that it's a spiritual diet? That's the reason?
No. What I'm saying is different commentaries have different suggestions, but I think the most accurate approach is to be very tentative about any benefits, whether they're physical. In other words, I think it's almost like the difference between correlation and causation. Maybe it's not exactly the same. I don't mean exactly that, but it's al derech, similar concept. It's like, okay, does kosher have benefits? I think we can say yes, but is kosher a thing because of the benefits? I think that's where it becomes dangerous to say that. Why are we kosher? To be physically healthier? I don't know. To be spiritually healthier? I don't know. Ultimately, it's because God said so. So will there be benefits? Sure, but is it about the benefits? Not necessarily. I think I think all of the above are true, but yet it might not be the reason with the capital T and R. Now, let's do text number 9. Done. Well, no, we did 8 before. Text number 9. Oh, here's Maimonides. Look what he writes about pork. All right.
All the foods that are forbidden by the nutritionally unwholesome. There is none among the forbidden foods whose injurious character is in doubt besides pork and fat.
Well, look at that. He says all non-kosher food is unwholesome. That's Maimonides. This is no good for you. He was a doctor, right? Look at that. He says, except for porks and fats, they might be fine. I mean, health-wise, but not kosher. So there you go. Now let's take a look at the box. Okay, so we got into the kosher a little bit. I think the point that I wanted to bring across. Hopefully, I made that. Now let's look at a fun fact. Look at the box on 119. How the OU began. Now I just want to explain. OU stands for Orthodox Union, which is an organization that began apparently, according to this box, over 100 years ago. Who knew? Let's take a look. The first national company to be certified kosher by an established rabbinical institution was H.J. Heinz in 1923 for the vegetarian version of canned pork and beans. Who would have thought the first kosher product certified by a hechsher was the vegetarian beans by Heinz?
Go Pittsburgh.
From Pittsburgh. 57, baby. Heinz Field, it used to be called. Roethlisberger putting it down to Heinz. Right? Yeah. No relation to the other Heinz. So here we go. You guys with me on this? Heinz, let's continue. They were, however, concerned. Heinz was concerned about having the word kosher on the label for fear that it would alienate their non-Jewish customers, i.e., the anti-Semites that would be bothered by kosher on the thing. After much negotiation, the Orthodox Union agreed to drop the word kosher from the original design proposal and instead came up with the circle U. I actually call it OU, a logo that is still in use. I always thought that it's an OU because like Orthodox Union, but what do I know? So OU, Orthodox Union, so that's where the symbol, and that's the symbol that you see there. It's on every bottle of water in front of y'all. There's an OU. I'm getting old, hence I have to lift up my glasses. Yep. For the Kirkland, there's two types. You have the, there's two types of water. Yours is Kroger, mine is Kirkland, wherever that is.
But it still has an OU.
It has an OU. But this one is under the barcode. It's very hard to see. Sometimes it'll be on the caps, like Coca-Cola will be on the cap, on the top, there'll be an OU. Or if it's a can, it'll be like etched into the top. There's a little O and U on that thing. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. Cool beans. Can't take me anywhere. Literally cannot take me anywhere. All right, take a look at 120. Take a look at page 120. Look at this. Look at this little faux pas. Kosher film. In the 1980s, rabbis noticed an OU symbol on Fuji film. I know what you're thinking. What's film? No, I'm kidding. Also, right? You guys know what film is, right? Yeah. All right. So when Fuji headquarters in Japan was contacted, they apologized for using the trademark symbol. It turns out that they've been advised that products with kosher symbols sell better in the United States, so the company figured it'd be worth giving it a try. Well, all right. First of all, no. Second of all, no. There's two no's over there. It's not, I mean, if you eat your film, that's another issue. I will say, though, that there are some products that have surprising kosher symbols on it. The one that comes to mind, maybe it's not so surprising, but maybe it is. I'll let you decide. Foil. Right? Foil. Aluminum foil. Reynolds aluminum foil has an OU on that package. I'm telling you. Check it out next time you see you encounter a Reynolds aluminum foil thing. I assume it's because people put it down in the oven and then put food on top of it. So it's cooking in proximity to the food layered on top of it. So if there was any like if Reynolds, right, schmeared, I'm using the Yiddish for schmear, right? It's just a Yiddish inflection. If they smeared the foil with a little, give me something worse. Lard, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you very much. Exactly. A little lard. Just keep things mysterious and whatnot. And then you're like, oh, cool. Foil lard. And then you put it down, you throw on, I don't know, you're toasting something, but you don't want the crumbs to fall through. Exactly. Some fake pork and beans on my lard foil. Houston, we would have a problem because you're basically cooking that, foil lard into the thing. Yeah.
Saran wrap.
Is saran wrap, does that have a extra on it? That would be interesting. It does have? Saran wrap has the OU?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Anything that could have heat. Yeah.
I'll give you another example.
Yeah.
I spent my chemist. I spent my entire career in the chemical plastics industry.
Really?
I took the advice from Dustin Hoffman in 1967. One word, plastic. Okay. So in plastics, it's not just the plastic.
Yeah.
They put additives in the plastic, like
interesting.
And other things.
Interesting.
Processing aids. And those, for many companies, have to be kosher, certified kosher. So there's like a common additive called calcium stearate.
Yeah.
Stearate can come from stearic acid, which can come from a vegetable or can come from an animal. So the kosher version of calcium stearate will only come from a vegetable source.
Not from the animal. That's fascinating. You see that?
Could you repeat it? Ari, could you repeat it?
I can't. It's too many chemical words. But basically, when they prepare plastic, There's a what's it called? What's it? Calcium
Calcium stearate is one example.
stearate, whatever. There are additives in the plastic that can either come ultimately from from animals or come from
And
vegetable source. And they
I've
got to
seen-
do the vegetable source. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen pictures on plastic forks and spoons.
Yeah, for the same reason. All right, good. This is great. Now let's get into next question. I get this, by the way, I get this question. I can't say all the time, but I get this question decently often. The question is it kosher to have imitation bacon? Or as I like to call it, bacon. Is that kosher? Is it kosher to have a burger, beef burger, with some soy cheese on top? Slap that cheese on it, call it a cheeseburger. Is it like, hold on, we're now wading into unkosher territory, or it's kosher, it's kosher? Good. Ellen, yeah. Ellen, please read text number 11 from the Talmud. Listen to this. It is wild. First of all, you need to know, let me just explain. Yalta was the wife of Rabbi Nachman, and she's going to ask her husband for a kosher alternative to something not kosher. Take it away, please.
Yalta said to her husband, Rabbi Nachman, it has been established that for every food that God forbade us to eat, He has permitted another food that has a similar taste. He forbade blood, but He permitted liver. He forbade certain fats of domesticated animals, but He permitted those same fats of undomesticated animals. He forbade swine, but He permitted the brains of the shabuta fish. Now I would like to eat something that tastes like milk and meat. Rabbi Nachman instructed the chefs to prepare for her an utter spit.
And you know what the outcome of that was? It was utterly delicious. Oh, let myself out with that joke. I'm kidding. Right? So basically, she comes up with a premise. And look at that opening paragraph. It has been established. It's like, where? I don't know. She's saying, we know for a fact that God has created kosher alternatives to every taste, right? So blood, liver, fats, swine, brain of the shabuta fish. I don't know what that is. I'm like, I'm not gonna have either. All right. But and what about the milk and meat? Out on a spit, whatever. That's so what does that tell us? That tells us, I'm not going to get into the specifics of how and what and where, but what does that tell us? That tells us that having a kosher equivalent is kosher. It's not like, oh, it tastes too close, don't do it. There's a new burger place in Toko. As I like to call it, Toko Thrills. Kidding. Toko Hills. There's a new place in Toko called Sababas. It's near Spicy Beach. It's near the kosher over there. Kosher. The kosher Kroger. All the Krogers have names. There's the Disco Kroger. There's the Murder Kroger. Oh, they rebranded it. There's the Beltline Kroger. Huh? They have, but the one in Toko, I think they call it kosher. Anyway, point is, I made it up. The point is that I call it kosher. I also call it K. Roger. No, Kroger, K. Roger. That's what it just makes it sound a little more sophisticated. I meant up to the K. Roger. Target, exactly. Very similar concept. Back to the story. So if you go there, it's a burger place. They sell other stuff as well. The wings are also amazing. Just FYI. Oh, not the 9 days, but okay. Back to the story. So the burgers, you can buy burgers, and most of them actually have little faux cheese on the burger. A lot of them have the fake. There's no problem at all. The only thing would be if you're not sure if it's the fake stuff or the real stuff. That's why an establishment or even in a home, you got to make sure that people know that it's 100% kosher. Just to clarify that last point that I mentioned, and Jewish law says that if you're serving almond milk, like the Almond Brothers. Anyway, if you're serving almond milk at like a meat meal, you have to chalav shkedim. You have to put like almonds near the milk. This is before packaging. Today, you just put the bottles, people would see that it's the non-dairy version. So for example, if you are hosting, let's say the synagogue is hosting a Shabbat meal, and it's going to be a meat meal and have, meat and chicken or whatever it is. It's going to be a fleshik, basari meal. So, and then but you have a coffee station, you have creamer. It's not good practice to put the creamer in a glass thing and people don't know, like, is it milk, is it not? Now, they would probably assume that a synagogue would not be mixing meat and milk together. However, it's good to be above board and demonstrate that, no, this is the almond, oat, whatever it is, substitute, the non-dairy substitute.
Cheese is not.
Yeah, what?
Cheese is. Oh, no. Mixing. One second, there's two issues. First of all, cheese needs to be kosher and the meat needs to be kosher. In addition to that, we'll talk about dairy in a second. I'm talking about dairy right now. Thank you for mentioning that. Let's talk about dairy soon. But in addition to that, not to mix them, so you want to use, one of them should be fake. So if you have real cheese, you got to use the fake meat. If you're using real meat, fake cheese, but it's always good to be above board and just put that out there, like, just so you know. So at the sababas, they put it in quotations, scare quotes. It's like, do you want the cheeseburger with the bacon? I guess bacon is that, the name implies that's fake. Regarding cheese and dairy, so I want to mention a few points. Number one, what constitutes kosher dairy? The answer is, it is any milk or dairy product that comes from a kosher type of animal. So pig's milk, that's a thing, would not be kosher. Lion's milk would not be kosher. Again, I'm not.
Giraffe milk would be kosher.
Giraffe milk would be kosher. Apparently, giraffe milk would be. I never thought of that. That's great.
It might be dangerous to milk.
It might. Yes, I don't know how that's going to work out, but if it is, it is. But that now, some people have a stringent level of dairy. I'll mention this very quickly. It's called Chalav Yisrael. And that basically means that it was a Jewish cow. I'm kidding. No, joking. It means that there was a kosher, what would be the way to say this? Like someone
a supervisor.
A kosher, like observant Jew. But like someone who cares about kosher, that was watching the entire milking process from beginning to end and is certifying that this is exclusively the milk of a kosher animal. Because, milk might be conceptual, could be passed off as kosher. Meanwhile, there's other stuff mixed into it that is not necessarily kosher. It could be. Now, I think back in the day it was more of a concern. Today with, USDA and whatever it is, it's probably less of a concern. So that's why a lot of people do not have the stringency to do the Chalav Yisrael, because they're like, what, you think the farmers and milk and cow's milk, you think they're putting in pig's milk? Come on, you got to be kidding me. Because like they couldn't get away with that by the government. But many people will say, other people will say, no. I want to know that there was a mashgiach, that means a supervisor that was there the whole time, looking at it, watching it, making sure that it was done. I will tell you, if you go the Chalav Yisrael route, be prepared to be very disappointed in your selection. I am Chalav Yisrael, for the record, and you walk in and there's like all this good stuff. That's like, Chalav Yisrael, and also the Chalav Yisrael stuff. This higher standard.
Rabbi
It's quite costly.
So-
Hold on 1 second, Jay. Yeah, Yaakov.
Kosher milk, is there a kosher milk that it's not Chalav Yisrael?
I think so.
Grover
Yeah.
milk.
Kroger milk.
Yeah, it's OU. Yeah, certified kosher. But it's not somebody watching it the whole time. They send mashgichim once in a while. They send a certifier. They send eyeballs, but not the whole process every single time. Chalav Yisrael milk means that there was somebody certifying it from beginning to end, the entire process. You got to pay for somebody to go out to the farm every day, the full day, and watch the stuff. That's why it's.
Why would that be more important than other kosher products?
I think so. That's a very good question. It might be a historical thing, that maybe historically those that sold milk back in the day, I don't mean like 10 years ago. I mean like, hundreds of years ago. Maybe those shenanigans were happening more, so it became more accepted in Jewish practice to make sure that we got eyeballs on it the whole time. But then again, rabbis have come out to relax.
You have it with other foods. So you have gluttony versus.
Well, we'll talk about glad in a second. Good. We'll talk about that in a second. So you do have different, have standards, but the actually glad is a little bit different. But with milk, it's specifically the idea of making sure that nothing else is getting mixed in. Yeah.
On the topic, we skipped text 10. I'm dying to know how the pig is kosher one day.
Oh, we did skip text 10. We'll get back to it. Jay, what do you want to say?
Yes. So how is it affected when there's a non-Jew milking the cow? Does that enter?
It's fine. It's fine. It's just the question is, if someone that is not kosher conscientious. All right. If someone is not observant of kosher, which means that they frankly don't care about the laws of kosher. So can you trust that person to be certifying and to be careful not to mix it in? Now, again, the reason why many are fine with not chav yisrael is because they'll say, yeah, because the USDA, if they catch you mixing pig's milk into that, you're going to lose your farm. Oh, that also means lose the farm, right? Like you're going to lose everything. So that itself is a disincentivize or de-incentivize a farm from doing any nefarious activities. So that's why that would happen. But some people still go with the chav yisrael. I'm one of them. So I pay $5 a bottle of milk. Lucky.
What about human milk, mother's milk? Clearly, it has to be kosher, but but you don't have kosher animal essentially, or human coming.
So that's a very good question. I've actually never looked into it, but
It's not even considered color.
it's not even right. It's not even dairy, right? The question would be if you commit. It's a very good question. We'd have to look that up, but it's as far as we know, babies are kosher drinking their mom's milk. You have a question? Mira, yeah.
All in America is because of like the FDA rules about milk.
Yeah.
If you go to another country, would you theoretically need to like actually keep the luggage or else since they don't necessarily have the same?
I don't know about other countries what the rules that they have, what the government regulation. It's a good question. I don't know. It's a good question. Now, one thing, we skipped text 10. Let's go back to text 10. So the word chazir, which means pig, also is related to the word choser, which means to return. And that leads to the following statement. Ramon, please read text number 10 on page 120.
In the future, the pig will become kosher.
Look at that. And you're thinking like, what? How? What? Where? When? So the commentaries say the reason, what that means is that in the future, in the Messianic era, pigs will begin chewing their cud. Who would have thought? The physiology or biology of the pigs will change. They'll get more stomachs. They'll start chewing their cud. And there you have it. The other way meat. Very good. It's the other way. Genetic engineering, right? So in other words, if the pig has both signs, you're good to go. You're good to go. Why is that interesting? I don't know. I think it's interesting because it's interesting. Because like, who would have thought that that pigs had a second chance? Oh yeah, wait me. Basar Lavan. Yeah.
There was a movie years ago, I can't remember the name of it, where the premise was that this guy had a pig farm and that he had somebody come around, or maybe it was a sheep farm, and come out and inseminate them, and the guy actually mixed up pig semen with lamb semen, and he inseminated a lamb with a pig. And then when this thing was born, it had hooves and it chewed the cuts. They had to bring rabbis in to see if it was kosher.
That's hilarious. That is very interesting. All right. That might be the kosher pig that we've all been waiting for. That would be the Messianic area.
Ari, I just wanted to add something.
Hold on. Yeah.
I'm still curious as to why a chicken is basari and
okay. So let's get the birds. Mom, very quickly, because we got just a few minutes.
Yes, some people will go so far as to refuse a pig's valve or even a pig skin coating to preserve their skin after a burn.
It's interesting. It's interesting because the prohibition. is only with eating.
Yes.
But it could be more of an emotional thing. I don't know if it's a halachic thing, but I will
No,
say
it's not. It's
that's
not.
the reason why I did not become a professional football player, because I'm not going to toss around the pigskin. Yes, go.
So the Torah says, do not cook a kid in his mother's
Yes.
milk. It doesn't say eat it together.
Correct.
But the rabbi said
We derive that.
let's not do that because it may make people think that we cooked it together.
No. So there are 3 times that the Torah says do not cook a kid in its mother's milk. And the rabbis derive from the triplicate, from the repetition of that 3 times, that is indicative of the fact that not only is cooking a goat in its mother's milk not okay, but also eating them together, even if it's not the kid in its mother's milk, but any meat and dairy is not okay, and not even benefiting or having pleasure from it, meaning owning a restaurant that profiting off of that, or even giving it. If you have workers and you want to give them something, so to give them that, you're gaining from giving that because they're going to work harder, they're going to be happy, so you're gaining. You cannot do that. You can do that with not kosher in general, but specifically now with the mixture of meat and milk. But that's good. We derive that from the 3 times. When it comes to chicken, very quickly, chicken and dairy is biblically permitted, rabbinically prohibited. Why? Why did the rabbis take away our chicken parmesan? How dare they? How could they? The answer is because they said that people would conflate the two. That people would say, having their chicken parm, I guess you can eat meat together with dairy. And because of that, it would erode the core mitzvah prohibition of meat and milk together, eating meat and milk together, not to do so. So they said, we're going to apply it to chicken. Why not to fish? Why not to fish and dairy? I think the answer is because the rabbis deem that people don't typically make a mistake. If you're having lox on cream cheese, they're not going to say, so I could also have a cheeseburger. But they felt like with the chicken, it would be a closer step, even though technically both are not basar, both are not meat. But they thought one would be a mistake, and one people would not that the rabbis didn't know the difference between the two. They thought people might erode it, so they made that gzera, they made that decree. But they felt like the fish would not be a problem. However, what's interesting, one second, two things. Fish and meat and fish and dairy. Now, fish has a status. I wanted to get to fish. One second. Let's, too much to get to. Where's fish? Can we hold off on fish for a second? Let's hold off on fish. We're gonna get to fish in a few moments. Let's do this rapid fire. Okay, I'm gonna read some text now. Let's go. What is glat? Okay, this is really important. I don't want to skip glat. What is glat kosher? This is page 122. What is glat kosher? Learning activity number 1. This is a quiz. A glat kosher product is A, food that is produced under constant rabbinical supervision. B, food that is produced by an Orthodox Jewish company. C, a food that meets a stricter set of kosher rules. D, both kosher and organic. E, none of the above. What's the answer? None of the above is the correct answer. Why is that so? What does glat mean? You need to know this. Glat is Yiddish. Glat means smooth. Excellent. What is
lungs?
Smooth?
The lungs,
What does smooth have to
something
do
with
with
the
this?
lungs.
Here is the deal. When it comes to kosher, you got to start off with a kosher type of animal. After that, you got to slaughter it properly. But even if both were satisfied, it still might not be kosher. Why? Because the animal might not be healthy. In halacha, there's something called treif. Not the way we use it. We say, that's treif. That's not the technical. Treif technically means, that might be me, I apologize. Treif means that it's an animal with a mortal injury. Even if it's alive, it was going to die, meaning it's unhealthy. Treif is specifically, we use it for anything that's not kosher, but narrowly, it's an animal that is a kosher type of animal, might have even been slaughtered properly, but it was going to die at some point within the next 12 months. That's how we define treif. Now, how do you know that? Well, sometimes you can see an animal has a clearly visible thing. There are 11 external signs, there are 8 primary and 70 secondary conditions that render an animal unhealthy and therefore treif. Some can be seen externally, like broken bones or missing limbs. Some can only be evaluated internally. And one condition that renders an animal a treifa and thus not kosher, meaning unhealthy and therefore not kosher, is if any of its vital internal organs have a hole in them. Now, we don't put the whole animal on the table and do a full autopsy on a cow every time you slaughter it. But because the assumption is that it's okay. But there is one internal organ that you investigate. That is the lungs. My grandfather, my mom's father, my grandfather, one of the things that he was a specialist in, he was a shochet, he was a ritual slaughter, but for many years he didn't actually slaughter the animals in the schlachtais, in the slaughterhouse. His job, he was an expert checker of the lungs. I actually saw him in action. I went to the slaughterhouse as a kid and I saw what he did. He put water on the lung, right? Once it's, and then he blew up the lung. And if it bubbles, there's a hole, there's a leak, there's a hole. If there's no bubble, you're good to go. Now, 1 second. What if there's no hole, but there's a sircha? That means there's an adhesion to the lung. So meaning it's not glatt, it's not smooth. You feel something, you inspect it. Not only do you blow it up, but you inspect it. You inspect it with feel, touch, and there's something not smooth about it. There's some, almost like a scab, let's say. So that could mean that there was a hole, but it patched it up. Let me ask you a question. You ever patch a tire? Yeah. How long does that last? It's not a final solution, but it's not a long-term plan. It's not a long-term plan. It's a patch, a temporary patch. So the question is a sircha, that means the adhesion. Is it kosher or not kosher? Take a look at this. I'm going to read some text. Text 12a. Okay, very quickly. You shall be a holy people unto me. An animal that was mortally wounded in the field, you shall not eat. That means if there's a mortal injury, including the internal stuff, you cannot eat it. Look at 12b. Rabbi Yosef Kara writes. He's the author of Shulchan Aruch, known as the Mechaber. He writes, in all instances where an animal is rendered non-kosher due to an adhesion on the lung, it does not matter whether the adhesion is fragile and slight like a hair or thick, sturdy, and wide like a thumb. While some massage the adhesion with their hands and permit the animal for consumption if it can be gently removed, this is not proper. Some people say that if the adhesion can come off and the lung remains intact, meaning doesn't have a hole in it once you take off the adhesion, it's kosher. He says, if there's anything that's not perfectly smooth, it's no good. Text 12c, Rabbi Moshe, so he's the rabbi, he's the chief of the Sephardim. Comes along the chief Ashkenazic halachic expert, codifier, text 12c, Rabbi Moshe Islis, or Ramah says, there are those who permit the massaging and rubbing of the adhesions, for they maintain that a real adhesion, which would render an animal treifa, would not dislodge even if massaged all day. Therefore, they are lenient with regard to any adhesion that can be rubbed off, saying that it's only a lower class of adhesion, even though this is a great leniency. Those who do so should not be reprimanded, for this is the common practice in our entire region, and there is basis for their practice, which means that Sephardim only eat glatt kosher, and Ashkenazim, some and some. I'll say that again. Sephardim only eat glatt. If there's any adhesion, not kosher. They sell it as not kosher. Ashkenazim, based on what we read in text 12c, they will say if the adhesion could come off and it looks fine after that, it might be okay. In practice today, the OU will only certify any meat that it certifies is only glatt. They don't mess around because there's too many different, they go with the higher standard glatt. But now glatt, if somebody's like, the cheese is so kosher, it's glatt cheese. You're like, bro, glatt cheese? Cheese has lungs? I don't think so. You're out. Even glatt chicken is not a thing. Glatt chicken, I know chickens have lungs, but they don't check the lungs. They don't inspect them like they do it's only the cows. It's only beef that they do this. Or larger animals. It's not chickens. So in short, glatt means smooth lungs, like jazz. I'm kidding. Smooth lungs, right? That are just no adhesions. That's what glatt is. Very quickly, we're going to spend give me, please, maybe 2.5 minutes. Kosher salt. What is kosher salt? You have a kosher animal. You slaughtered her properly. You check the lungs. Everything is kosher. Can you eat it? Not yet. You cannot eat blood. Text 13. And I say to the children of Israel, says God, you shall not eat the blood of any flesh. So what do? You soak it, you salt it, you rinse it. You soak it, you salt it, you rinse it. The salt draws out the blood. But what kind of salt? I'm glad you asked. Text 14. Code of Jewish law says one should not use salt that is fine like flour. You know why? It doesn't pull out. It gets absorbed with, you put the fine table salt, it's not pulling out anything. Nor should you use salt that is exceedingly coarse that rolls off the meat. Because guess what? That also is not pulling off anything. So what type of salt do you use? Right in the middle, right? Not too small, not too big. It's like the three little Goldilocks. And the three, what were they?
Bears.
Three little bears?
Bears.
Who then will become kosher at some point. Then we'll finally read it. All right, 1 second. So what is kosher salt? Kosher salt is not really what it is. It's kosher ring salt. All salt is kosher, hashtag all salt. All salt is kosher. It's a mineral. You can totally eat minerals. Knock yourself out. But why is it called kosher salt? It was made to kosher meat. It was made for the process of koshering meat. Hence, it was originally called koshering salt. But someone's like, kosher ring salt? Sounds too weird. Kosher salt. So to this day, you can go to the supermarket, buy kosher salt. It's the perfect salt for extracting blood from all your meat, as if we're doing that at home in our bathtubs. Now, let's jump into birds. We're moving on. 90 seconds. Birds. What are birds? I know what birds are. Birds fly in the air. But what are kosher birds? The Torah doesn't tell us any signs with kosher birds. It just says, don't eat these. And it lists a bunch of birds not to eat, but we don't know what they are. Why? Because there are a bunch of Hebrew terms from how are we supposed to know which exact species the Torah refers to. And if you read different translations, you'll get different translations. So we have a tradition. The way it is in practice, we only eat birds that we have a clear tradition that are kosher. Anything else we assume is not kosher. So now, what happened when turkeys came on the scene? So people were like, great, turkeys. And some people cried, foul. Thank you very much. Some people cried foul. Some people said no. In fact, Rabbi Horowitz, the Shalah, Rabbi Yeshaya, what's his name? Yeshaya Horowitz. Anyway, great tzaddik, great rabbi a few hundred years ago, he saw a turkey be so violent. There was a situation, he saw a turkey be violent, and he said, you know what? There's no way this is a kosher bird. To this day,
South Africa.
most everybody eats turkey, gobble gobble, but anyone with the last name Horowitz, they don't eat turkey. And South Africans also not.
Well, I mean, there's South Africa.
Who?
Stacy and
Oh, there's Trevor Horowitz. Yeah, he's a proud Horowitz. But if you know a Horowitz, fun fact, ask them, hey, can I invite you over for some turkey? See what they say. They'll be horrified. No. All right, very quickly, insects. Are insects kosher? The answer is no, except the Torah says certain grasshoppers are. So now it's like, oh, I'll buy some grasshoppers. Before you go down to the local grasshopper shop and buy some chocolate dipped grasshoppers, you should know this. There needs to be tradition for which grasshoppers. The only Jews to this day that have a tradition are Yemenite Jews. They say that grasshoppers that have the letter ches or chet on their bellies are kosher.
You can buy them at the Biblical Museum of Jewish History in
kosher lepesach.
Kosher lepesach grasshoppers. All right, look, great, wonderful. I'm not going to go by. I believe that when it comes to these regionally things, if you're a Yemenite or if you like adopt that community standard, great. But if, I don't know, I would not recommend. Now, what about fish? Fish are kosher if they have text 17, 126. They have to have fins and scales. Fins propel you forward, scales protect. We have to have ambition, but we also have to have integrity. That's the meaning of fish and scales. But what about, and so therefore a fish that doesn't have fins and scales, like a lobster, crab, I don't know. Catfish, whatever. If it doesn't have fins and scales, it's not kosher. Famous fins and scales fish would be salmon, pike, whitefish, and of course, the ever elusive gefilte.
Gefilte fish.
You know, when you found the gefilte fish, is the one that's swimming with the carrot on its back, and it's easy to catch. It's easy to catch because it can't even swim. It's stuck in the jelly. So you just take a jar, You scoop it. I cut a few gefilte, and then you put on the top. But all joking aside, what is gefilte? Gefilte is Yiddish. Gefilte means stuffed. What happened? Back in the day, in the shtetl, they had one. I mean, they didn't have a lot of money. So you may have one small piece of fish. You got to feed a whole army of mouths. So what do? You put in some carrots, some onions, some spices, some breadcrumbs, some whatever. You stretch it. It's like a meatloaf. You stretch it a little bit. So they stretched it. They took it, they stretched it, they put it back into the skin, they baked it. Gefilte fish. It's stuffed fish. There's another reason why gefilte fish became a Jewish thing, and that's because on Shabbat, we don't do borer. Well, we don't bowl on Shabbat. That was Big Lebowski. But we also don't, right? But we also don't do borer. Borer means separating. We don't separate bad from good, meaning if you're eating fish that has bones in it, you're not on Shabbat, you're not actually allowed to take out the bones, which makes it very difficult to eat fish that has bones. Gefilte fish, guess what? No bones. Hopefully they didn't just crush it out. Very rarely, but you can't actually separate the bad from the good on Shabbat. It's called borer. We can't do a deep dive into that right now, but that's a thing, and therefore gefilte avoids the problem altogether. I do want to conclude with a final point, and that is that eating, we talked about why we eat, to elevate the world, what we eat, kosher, how we eat is with mindfulness, that what we're doing is part of this holy activity as we start today's class. And to do that requires mindfulness. And that is why we say a bracha. One of the reasons why we say a blessing before we eat the food is to put us in a state of mindfulness, a state of almost like a meditative state, to remind ourselves that we're eating something, we're consuming something from the world. We're taking something that existed and putting it inside ourselves and digesting it. And that's no small potatoes. That's not a small thing. That's a big thing that we're doing. And it requires mindfulness to do it right. In fact, there is a text here that we're going to skip because we're concluding the class that says that the tree of knowledge and the tree of life are the same tree. The question is not which tree are you eating. The question is, how are you eating? Are you eating for life? Are you eating for purpose, or are you eating for pleasure? Eating for purpose is tree of life. Eating for pleasure is tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so the question is not what you're eating as much sometimes as it is how you're eating. It could be kosher, but it might not be kosher the way we're eating it. My friends, this takes us to the end of today's class. The greatest, perhaps, act of discipline in our lives is demarcating what is on our dinner plates. Let us be inspired by tonight's kosher class to make sure that we are a little bit more mindful about kosher, appreciative of this gift that we have of kosher, and of course, coming soon to a plate near you, chazer. No, I'm kidding. And of course, to always be mindful as we eat, with the proper intention and the proper meditation in mind. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for sticking with me, even though we're a little bit late. Appreciate you. You guys are great. Give yourselves a round of applause. You guys did great. Thank you for the discussion. Next week, same bad time, same bad channel. It's all Hebrew to me. Exploring the Holy Tongue, myths and mysteries of the Hebrew language. Next week, right here. All right. That's it.